Have you ever felt the sting of injustice so sharp it steals your breath? Have you witnessed the crushing weight of humiliation descend upon someone simply for being different? This is the story of Linda Rowe, a woman who carried the invisible wounds of war alongside the visible absence of a limb. It's a story that unfolds within the familiar backdrop of a small-town diner, a place where the aroma of coffee and the murmur of conversation usually offer solace. But on this particular afternoon, that peace was brutally shattered, revealing both the ugliness of prejudice and the profound power of unexpected honor. For Linda, Montana's welcome home diner was a sanctuary after years of service overseas that cost her a part of herself. In her quiet corner booth, the scent of bacon and coffee offered solace, a contrast to volatile landscapes. Her scarred hands often found peace in folding napkins. At 48, Linda, a dignified warrior, had lost her left leg in Afghanistan. Deeper wounds lingered in her eyes, memories of loss, gunfire, fallen comrades. These silent burdens found a fragile anchor in her diner routine. Mike, the veteran owner, understood her without words, their shared history a bond of battles fought and scars endured. His handshake was a promise of respect. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows, creating a deceptive tranquility. Linda adjusted her prosthetic, a familiar grimace at the phantom pain. She cherished these quiet moments. Then, the jarring bell announced four swaggering men, disrupting the peace with their whiskey scent and loud entitlement. Linda stiffened, recognizing Jack Winters, a cruel, dishonorably discharged veteran who belittled the vulnerable. "Well, look what we have here," Jack sneered at Linda, the half-soldier on wheels. Linda kept her gaze down, folding napkins. 18 years of discipline taught her which battles to avoid. Didn't think they'd let cripples handle food, Jack's amplified voice carried. Unease rippled through the silent patrons. Melissa, the waitress, glanced at Linda before intently wiping counters. Linda silently wheeled to a nearby table, collecting cups. "Can I get you gentlemen menus?" she asked steadily. Jack sprawled in the booth. "Sure thing, Wheels. Roll it over quick." His friend snickered, turning away. Jack theatrically whispered, "How'd a woman even get into the Marines? Some diversity quota." Linda's knuckles whitened on her chair grips, her face impassive. "Petty cruelty wasn't worth engaging. I served with females," Jack persisted, his voice rising. "Dead weight. All of them. Women like you are why our military's gone soft," Linda returned with menus. "Today's special is meatloaf," she said evenly. Jack's hand clamped her wrist. His mockery targeted her forearm tattoo. "So, you really were a jarhead? Office duty, filing papers while real soldiers fought, remove your hand." Linda said, steel in her quiet tone, "Or what? You'll run me over?" Jack laughed, shoving her dismissively. "Women like you are why America can't win wars anymore. Playing soldier until it gets rough, then coming home for special treatment." Linda measured her breathing. "I'll give you time with the menus." Pivoting, Jack blocked her wheel with his boot. "Did I dismiss you, Marine?" "Stand at attention," Linda smoothly maneuvered. "Your server will be with you shortly." "Wheelchair warriors should stay home," Jack called after her venomously. "If you can't stand on your own 2 feet, don't make it everyone else's problem." Cruel laughter echoed. A heavy-set man approached Linda from behind. "We're talking to you, soldier girl," he slurred, grabbing her wheelchair handles and violently shoving her. The chair hit a table, tipping and launching Linda to the floor. Hot coffee splashed, searing her skin. Her prosthetic twisted painfully. The diner froze in horrified silence. Only the clatter and Linda's gasp broke it, along with Jack's laughter. Linda lay there, the cold floor pressing against her, the burning coffee a physical manifestation of shame. Public humiliation weighed heavily. For the first time since Afghanistan, she felt utterly vulnerable. The thick silence was broken only by Jack's snorts and Linda's frantic heartbeat. Her belongings scattered, wallet, handkerchief, a faded photo of her unit before the injury. With mechanical precision, Linda pulled herself up, her strong upper body compensating. She reached for her overturned chair, a grunt betraying the effort. Still, no one helped. Patrons averted their eyes, whispering uncomfortably. Linda's face remained a disciplined mask. Showing weakness could be fatal. She systematically gathered her belongings, the burning coffee a constant reminder. Her faded Marine jacket, with its worn emblem, lay nearby, a testament to her enduring identity. Melissa approached with towels, but Dave intercepted her. "Don't. They're paying customers." We don't need trouble. But she works here, Melissa protested, part-time only. They're regulars, big spenders when happy. Just take their orders. Profit trumped decency. Linda settled back in her chair, her dignity seemingly intact, her shoulders rigid. She wheeled back to her corner, not ordering a replacement coffee. Her hand drifted to her chest, where medals once were, now symbols of a service mocked. A young boy watched with troubled eyes, his father wearing a veteran's jacket. "Dad," he whispered, "is that lady a soldier, too?" "Like you?" His father studied Linda, his expression hardening as he noticed the emblem and then Jack's laughing table. "Yes, Tommy," he finally said, his voice thick. "A real one." He stood, phone in hand. "Excuse me," he told his wife, his eyes on Linda. "I need to make a call." He strode out, his low voice carrying back, "Hey, it's Lieutenant Crawford. Listen, I need to report something I just witnessed to the old unit. You're not going to believe this." Inside, Linda sat motionless, adjusting her sleeve, her 1,000-yard stare fixed on the "Welcome Home, Diner of the Brave" sign, the irony heavy. Across the room, Jack's voice rose again. "Hey, half-soldier, my coffee is getting cold. Don't they teach you to serve in the Marines?" Linda didn't flinch. She didn't need to. The diner door was already swinging open. Lieutenant Crawford's call was brief and to the point, a veteran's concise report of injustice witnessed. He didn't need to embellish, the stark facts spoke for themselves. The disrespect shown to a fellow Marine, a decorated veteran, on American soil, was an affront to the very principles they had sworn to uphold. His words, spoken with the quiet authority of someone who had commanded respect in far more dangerous situations, carried the weight of shared experience and unwavering loyalty. The bold unit he contacted understood the unspoken language of duty and the unbreakable bond that connected those who had served. They knew that leaving a comrade behind was not an option, regardless of the battlefield. Exactly 30 minutes after Linda had been thrown to the floor, the unmistakable growl of a military Humvee engine cut through the diner's uncomfortable murmur. It wasn't just any vehicle, this was a symbol of power and purpose, painted in desert tan with the Marine Corps insignia clearly visible on its side. The massive vehicle screeched to a halt directly in front of the diner entrance, its tires crunching aggressively on the gravel, a stark contrast to the earlier sounds of laughter and humiliation. The diner door swung open with a precision that spoke of countless drills and unwavering discipline. 3 Marines entered in perfect formation, their presence immediately commanding attention. 2 men and 1 woman, all wearing impeccable service uniforms that gleamed under the fluorescent lights, their bearing radiating an aura of quiet authority. Leading the trio was a barrel-chested master sergeant with steel-gray hair cropped regulation short. A slight limp hinted at battles fought and won, and he carried a polished oak cane, not as a sign of weakness, but as a testament to his enduring strength. Behind him came a younger Marine pushing an empty wheelchair, a silent offering of support. The third was a female captain whose uniform displayed a chest full of combat ribbons and medals, silent narratives of multiple tours in the world's most dangerous places. They didn't utter a single word. They didn't need to. Their presence alone was a powerful statement, a tangible manifestation of the loyalty Lieutenant Crawford had invoked. A heavy silence blanketed the diner as they moved with synchronized purpose directly toward Linda's corner table, their eyes focused, their movements deliberate. The master sergeant stopped directly before Linda, drew himself to perfect attention despite his injured leg, and delivered a textbook salute, his gaze unwavering. "Staff Sergeant Rowe," he said, his voice deep and resonant, carrying an unspoken weight of respect. "Forgive our delayed response, ma'am." Linda's military training, buried beneath layers of civilian life and recent humiliation, took over instinctively. Her posture straightened in her wheelchair, her shoulders squaring as her hand rose in a crisp, precise return salute. The defeated look that had clouded her eyes vanished, replaced by a flicker of something long dormant, pride, perhaps, or the rekindled ember of her warrior spirit. "At ease, Master Sergeant Wilson," she replied, her voice stronger and more commanding than anyone in the diner had ever heard from her. Melissa, the young waitress, hurried over, nervously smoothing her apron. Should I clean the table for you all?" The female captain nodded once, her gaze direct and reassuring. "For coffees, please, black," the captain stated, her voice clear and authoritative. At Jack's table, the earlier bravado had completely evaporated. The laughter had died in their throats, replaced by an unsettling silence. The men shifted uncomfortably in their booth, suddenly finding an intense fascination with the condensation on their drink glasses. Master Sergeant Wilson addressed Linda. his voice carrying throughout the now hushed diner without the need for raised volume. "Lieutenant Crawford contacted us, ma'am. Said one of our finest was being disrespected on civilian ground." The captain's calculating gaze swept across the diner, lingering for a moment on Jack and his companions, a silent acknowledgement of their transgression. The lieutenant specifically mentioned individuals who physically assaulted a decorated combat veteran in a wheelchair. "It's nothing," Linda murmured, though she subtly straightened her prosthetic leg beneath the table, a reflexive action of pride. "With respect, Staff Sergeant," Master Sergeant Wilson replied firmly, his eyes never leaving hers. "It is not nothing. Nobody pushes one of ours, not in combat, not in civilian territory." The younger Marine, Corporal Jenkins, cleared his throat, his gaze filled with a deep respect. "Staff Sergeant Rowe led our unit through Kandahar when everything went sideways. Saved my life and 4 others when our convoy hit that IED cluster." Linda's eyes flashed with a flicker of recognition. "Corporal Jenkins. You were barely 20, still green, ma'am," he said, a tight smile touching his lips. "But I never forgot what you taught us. Marines move as one, or not at all." Throughout the diner, something remarkable began to unfold. An elderly man wearing a veteran cap slowly rose to his feet, his back straightening with a forgotten military bearing. At a back table, a middle-aged woman with an Air Force pin on her jacket stood, her expression one of silent solidarity. 3 National Guard members in civilian clothes rose as well, a silent pledge of support. Lieutenant Crawford, the boy's father, returned from outside and called out a single, resonant command, "Attention!" Nearly half the diner's patrons stood, their backs straight, their shoulders squared in a spontaneous display of respect for Linda and her fellow Marines. Linda's eyes widened in surprise. A wave of emotion washing over her. At Jack's table, the uncomfortable silence deepened into palpable unease. The heavy-set man who had pushed Linda's wheelchair seemed to shrink in his seat, his earlier aggression replaced by a nervous pallor. Jack stared intently into his coffee cup, his earlier bravado having evaporated like morning dew. Master Sergeant Wilson turned his steely gaze toward their table, his presence radiating an authority that needed no shouting. "The Corps teaches us to fight with honor, to protect those who cannot protect themselves, and to never, under any circumstances, leave a Marine behind." His voice, though calm, carried the weight of decades of service and unwavering conviction. "Some wear the uniform, but never truly understand what it means to serve." The captain placed a comforting hand on Linda's shoulder, her touch conveying a silent understanding. "Staff Sergeant Rowe lost her leg pulling 3 Afghan children from a burning vehicle after an IED strike. Earned the Bronze Star with valor. 23 years of distinguished service to her country." Linda shook her head slightly, a hint of discomfort in her eyes. "That's enough, Captain. That life is behind me." "With respect, Staff Sergeant," the captain replied gently but firmly. "The Corps is never behind you. Semper Fidelis isn't just a motto." Dave, the manager, approached their table, his earlier indifference replaced with a nervous deference. "Your meals are on the house today, for all of you." Master Sergeant Wilson met his gaze evenly. "Marines pay our debts, sir. Always have, always will." The meal that followed was subdued but dignified. Linda sat tall in her wheelchair, surrounded by her fellow Marines, occasionally sharing a small smile or a nod at a shared memory, a silent language only they understood. Around them, the diner slowly returned to a semblance of normal activity. Though many patrons stopped by their table to offer quiet words of thanks for their service, their voices hushed with respect. Jack and his friends paid their bill in silence, avoiding eye contact with anyone. As they departed, Corporal Jenkins called after them, his voice laced with a pointed irony, "Semper Fi, gentlemen." The tone made it clear the phrase was both a traditional Marine greeting and a thinly veiled warning. As the evening shadows lengthened outside, Linda found herself speaking more than she had in months. With her comrades beside her, the dam of silence began to crack, and memories surfaced, some painful, some fiercely proud. She described the stark beauty of the Afghan mountains at dawn. The unbreakable camaraderie forged in the crucible of shared missions, the hypervigilance that became a second skin in war zones. "Remember Helmand Province?" Master Sergeant Wilson chuckled, a shared memory sparking in his eyes. "When that sandstorm hit, and you navigated us back to base using just the stars and pure stubbornness." A faint smile touched Linda's lips. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," the captain interrupted firmly. "Not anyone. That's why you earned those stripes." As closing time approached, the Marines prepared to leave. Master Sergeant Wilson placed a business card on the table, a personal phone number handwritten on the back. "Next time," he said quietly, his gaze direct and sincere. "You call us directly. No Marine stands alone. Ever." 1 week later, the Welcome Home Diner unveiled its new sign. The weathered old board had been replaced with a freshly painted display that read, "Diner of the Brave. Every soldier has a place here." Inside, the transformation was subtle but profound. Photographs of local veterans, spanning different eras and service branches, now lined one wall, their names and years of service proudly displayed beneath each image, a testament to the community's newfound respect. At Linda's corner table, a small brass plaque had been permanently affixed, "Reserved for veterans." Linda still arrived for her regular shifts, still folded napkins and served coffee with her quiet efficiency. But now, she wore her Marine Corps pin openly on her collar, a small but powerful symbol of her identity. Her wheelchair now sported a small Corps flag attached to the back, a silent declaration that she was not forgotten. The booth where Jack and his friends had sat remained conspicuously empty. Regular customers seemed to avoid it through unspoken agreement, a collective act of shunning. Instead, veterans of all ages gravitated toward tables near Linda's corner, offering respectful nods without intruding on her space, a silent acknowledgement of shared sacrifice. Lieutenant Crawford and his family became Saturday regulars. His son Tommy often brought hand-drawn pictures for Linda, crayon figures in uniform standing beside a smiling stick figure in a wheelchair, all beneath a brightly colored sun. "Is this supposed to be me?" Linda asked one morning, studying the colorful artwork. Tommy nodded seriously, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Dad says you're a hero." He paused, then added with the innocent wisdom of a child, "Heroes should smile more." A genuine smile, perhaps her first in years, touched Linda's lips. "Your dad sounds like a wise man. He says what you do matters more than what you say," Tommy replied, repeating his father's lesson with earnestness. "And that real strength isn't about having two good legs." In the parking lot, a desert tan Humvee now appeared regularly every Thursday evening. Master Sergeant Wilson, Captain Rodriguez, and Corporal Jenkins would arrive precisely at 1800 hours for their weekly meal with Linda. They never discussed the incident that had brought them together. They didn't need to. Instead, they shared coffee and memories, occasionally falling into the comfortable silence of those who have faced death together and emerged forever changed but unbroken. The diner itself had subtly transformed. What was once just another roadside eatery had become something more, neutral ground where the military-civilian divide narrowed over cups of coffee and shared meals. Veterans who had previously kept to themselves now found camaraderie in a quiet corner booth. Civilians who had never served began to recognize the quiet signs of sacrifice in the people they passed daily. Dave, the manager, who had once prioritized paying customers over basic decency, now greeted each veteran personally, a newfound respect evident in his demeanor. He'd replaced his casual attire with pressed shirts and a tie, a small American flag pin adorning his lapel. The changes weren't just cosmetic. He'd hired 2 more veterans as staff members and established a monthly dinner where local service members ate for free, a tangible way of giving back. Melissa, the young waitress, had asked Linda to teach her about military rank structure and protocol. She now recognized different service insignias and understood which questions were appropriate to ask returning soldiers and which subjects to respectfully avoid, demonstrating a genuine desire to understand and honor their service. One evening, as Linda's Thursday dinner with her fellow Marines concluded, a young man in a crisp new Army uniform entered the diner. He stood hesitantly just inside the door, clutching his cap, clearly a stranger to the town and perhaps to the weight of his impending service. Linda wheeled over to him, her gaze gentle and understanding. "First deployment?" she asked quietly. He nodded, a visible wave of relief washing over his face at being acknowledged by someone who understood. "Ship out tomorrow morning, ma'am." Linda gestured to the empty chair at their table. "Join us. Coffee's decent and the company's better. I wouldn't want to intrude on your—" "You're not intruding, soldier," she interrupted gently, a warmth in her voice that hadn't been there before. "You're continuing a tradition." As the young recruit settled at their table, Master Sergeant Wilson raised his coffee cup in a silent toast. Around the diner, other veterans, identified by their caps, pins, or simply by the way they carried themselves, raised their cups in response. No words were exchanged. But none were needed. The gesture conveyed everything. "You are seen. You are one of us. You will never stand alone." The town itself seemed to have absorbed the lesson of that fateful afternoon. Linda had been invited to speak at the local high school about her service. And after years of silence, she found herself sharing stories with teenagers, not of combat or injury, but of discipline, purpose, and the unbreakable bonds formed under pressure. "The uniform isn't what makes you a Marine," she told them, her voice steady and resonant. "It's standing tall when it would be easier to crumble. It's carrying weight for someone who can't bear it alone. It's remembering that your actions reflect not just on you, but on everyone who stands beside you." Local business owners began offering military discounts they'd never considered before. The town council approved funds for a small veterans memorial in the park. A weekly support group for returning service members started meeting in the community center, a safe space for shared experiences and healing. 6 months after that fateful day, a reporter from a regional newspaper visited to write about the diner's transformation into an unofficial veterans hub. Linda reluctantly agreed to an interview but refused to discuss the incident that started it all. "Some battles aren't worth remembering," she said simply, her gaze focused on the veterans laughing quietly in a nearby booth. "Focus on what came after. Focus on the good that came out of something ugly." What came after was a community transformed by the ripple effects of both cruelty and kindness, a powerful reminder that indifference enables hatred, while solidarity builds strength. Jack Winters never returned to the diner. Rumors circulated that he'd moved to another town after losing his job, something about conduct unbecoming when his employer discovered what had happened. Linda never asked about him. She had more important things to focus on, like the young female Army recruit who sought her out for advice before shipping to basic training. Outside, the golden sunlight bathed the Montana mountains as evening approached, casting long shadows across the diner's parking lot, where the familiar desert tan Humvee waited patiently. A handwritten note remained taped to its windshield: "We always come back for those who never quit." As darkness fell, the diner's windows glowed warmly, illuminating the diverse faces gathered within, young recruits facing uncertain futures, aging veterans with stories etched in their weathered faces, and Linda sitting tall in her wheelchair, finally home in a world that had once seemed determined to push her aside. The brass plaque on her table caught the light, its simple message, reflecting a profound truth, reserved for veterans. In this place, at least, no one would be forgotten. No one would stand alone. Every soldier had an honored place at the table, wheelchair or not. The greatest battles, Linda had learned, weren't always fought on foreign soil. Sometimes they happened in small-town diners, where the weapons were words and the victory came not from defeating enemies, but from standing firm in who you are, even when the world tries to knock you down. Not everyone who wears a uniform understands the true meaning of honor. But those who maintain their dignity when humiliated, those who find strength in vulnerability, they are the ones worthy of our deepest respect. This story illustrates that a community's true character is revealed in how it supports its marginalized members. Even amidst cruelty, shared experiences and loyalty can spark significant change. Speaking out against injustice and offering support are crucial. No one should be left behind, everyone deserves respect and a voice. If you agree, please comment "Respect" to stand for kindness and justice. Share stories that inspire and move us.